Here are the top stories for today, May 31, 2022. Malacanang says no one was left behind during the 6-year stint of the Duterte administration. More personalities are named for cabinet positions under the incoming Marcos administration. The salary hike for minimum wage earners and domestic workers in northern Mindanao has been granted. And 4 ambassadors vowed to strengthen diplomatic and trade ties between the Philippines and their respective countries. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Duterte administration did not leave anyone behind in its thrust for a more developed country and progressive economy. During the Duterte Legacy Summit, Presidential spokesperson and Communications Secretary Martin Andanar highlighted the government's policies and flagship programs for the past 6 years based on the government's 10-point socio-economic agenda. Also realized under the Duterte administration are the push for universal healthcare law and Malasakit Center, universal access to quality tertiary education, Bangsamoro Organic Law, anti-illegal drugs campaign, migrant workers protection, and the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. Infrastructure projects are undoubtedly one of the hallmarks of the Duterte administration. According to the report of the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Build, Build, Build program was undertaken to make the next few years the golden age of infrastructure in the Philippines. Among the completed projects are the final section of the Tarlac-Pangasinan-La Union Expressway or TPLEX, Plaridel Bypass Road Phase 2, Harbor Link Segment 10 and C310 section, Skyway Stage 3, and Alabang Sukat Skyway Extension. Notable accomplishments for the road sector are the completed road sections of Central Luzon Link Expressway, Cavite-Laguna Expressway, and Manila-Cavite Toll Expressway. In Metro Manila, 3 major projects were completed, namely the Estrella Pantaleon Bridge, Bonifacio Global City Ortigas Center Link Road Project, and the recently completed Binondo Intramuros Bridge. Moreover, almost 14,000 flood control projects have been completed as of March 13. All projects are set to provide 6.5 million jobs to Filipinos from 2016 to 2020. Participatory governance is said to be a major point in the administration of President Rodrigo Duterte. According to Interior Secretary Eduardo Año, democracy reached its peak during the term of the president when people's needs were heard and addressed. He said in the past 6 years, various national government agencies collaborate with one another and reach out to the citizens to make them aware of the people's concerns and ensure that these are addressed adequately and immediately. He also said that authorities address the public's complaints through hotline 8888 and 911. As such, red tape and other forms of corrupt activities drop dramatically. Vice President-elect Sara Duterte Carpio must continue pursuing education equity for all learners. This is the message of Education Secretary Leonor Briones, citing the Duterte administration's legacy of expanding opportunities for learners under the Alternative Learning System and the Last Mile Schools program. Briones said these programs are reaching the educationally deprived individuals regardless of age and distance. She said they are ready for a smooth transition with Duterte Carpio, targeting June 20 to 30 as the scheduled turnover with their respective transition teams.
Talaga ito. Lumaki ang budget ng Department of Education dahil binigyan ng additional support ito ni President Duterte, itong alternative learning systems natin. Nung pinakita ko yung video sa alternative learning systems at yung pangalawang program na sinasabi namin ay Last Mile Schools program, itong mga schools na nasa mga malalayong lugar, sa mga isla, sa mga bundok na hindi naaabot, kakulang ang facilities, etc. Ito yung presenta ko sa London basically. At may mga naiiyak nung nakita nila na ang tuwa ng mga bata, mga adults na binigyan sila ng ganong pagkakataon. So we look forward to a continuity of these two. Ito yung legacy programs ni President Duterte.
Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade highlighted the gains delivered by the agency since the start of the Duterte administration. In his speech during the Duterte Legacy Summit, Tugade said that in 6 years, the Department of Transportation, or DOTR, has completed 250 airport and aviation projects, 1,200 kilometers of completed and ongoing railway projects, and 579 completed maritime projects, with 163 ongoing projects. He also mentioned the newly completed and rehabilitated Clark International Airport and its new world-class Terminal 2, the scenic Bicol International Airport, Mactan Cebu International Airport, Bohol Panglao International Airport, and Zamboanga International Airport, among others. In the railway sector, he highlighted the rehabilitation of the MRT-3, the completion of the LRT Line 2 East Extension, the ongoing construction of the MRT-7, the Metro Manila Subway, and the Common Station, which are all set to be partially operational this year. Meanwhile, other ongoing rail projects include the Philippine National Railways Clark Phase 1, PNR Bicol, and Mindanao Railways. In the road transport and infrastructure sector, Tugade highlighted the completion of the road ports such as the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX, the Service Contracting Program, Libreng Sakay, the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program, and the creation of bike lanes across the country. Meanwhile, the Dutch Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, or DCCP, lauded outgoing Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade for his support to the Dutch-Philippine business community. In a letter, the DCCP expressed their appreciation for the dedication and commitment of Tugade and his department, and it is looking forward to continuing working with him in the future. The DCCP is made up of 115 active member companies and individuals representing the Dutch-Filipino business community. The creation of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, and the Anti-Terrorism Act are also considered as major legacies of the Duterte administration. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 allowed law enforcement agencies to protect communities against terrorism. Meanwhile, the NTF-LCAC uses the whole-of-nation approach in addressing communist insurgency. Lorenzana said through its Barangay Development Program, or BDP, the NTF-LCAC provides development projects to barangays such as farm-to-market roads, schools, sanitation systems, irrigation or water projects, health stations, and livelihood programs in former conflict-ridden communities. Around 822 barangays are said to have benefited from various projects. Moreover, Lorenzana said at least 56 guerrilla fronts of the New People's Army have been dismantled or cleared since 2016. Meanwhile, Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said interventions are needed to continue the localized peace engagement in Central Luzon. He said the major milestone of the first phase of the program includes the dismantling of guerrilla fronts, surrender of mass organizations, protection of the youth and poor sector, socio-economic gains achieved to improve security conditions in communities, and the active leadership role of local government units in advancing LCAC works. Galvez, who is also the Cabinet Officer for Regional Development and Security in Central Luzon, urged anew the implementing agencies to be more purposive and determined in putting an end to the decades-long insurgency in the country. Still ahead, the PNP orders all chiefs of police to update their illegal drugs watch list. Minimum wage earners and domestic workers in northern Mindanao are granted a wage increase. We will be back after a quick break. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Bida! Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, will continue its aggressive campaign against illegal drugs amid concerns that the operations will weaken once President Rodrigo Duterte steps down. PNP Director for Operations Major General Valeriano de Leon ordered all chiefs of police to regularly update their illegal drugs watch list, reminding them not to lower their guards because new players may take over. De Leon said the PNP has developed a new strategy to prevent drug syndicates from continuing their illegal operations and that the operations and law enforcement would be backed by an aggressive information drive and education campaign. De Leon also said he is certain that incoming President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. will continue President Duterte's drug war. The Philippine National Police vows to remain steadfast in the campaign against illegal drugs even under a new administration by focusing on prevention and education among the youth. PNP Officer in Charge Lieutenant General Vicente Danao Jr. addressed concerns that the campaign may weaken once President Rodrigo Duterte steps down from office. He said he has tasked police commanders to coordinate with local government units and the Department of Health on the rehabilitation of drug users. For his part, PNP Director for Operations Major General Valeriano de Leon said the PNP has developed a new strategy to prevent illegal drug syndicates from continuing their illegal operations. De Leon said the aggressive operations and law enforcement would be backed by an equally aggressive information drive and education campaign aimed at students who are often the target of customers of illegal drug syndicates. Since July 2016, the crime rate across the country has significantly decreased because of the aggressive campaign against illegal drugs. President-elect Bongbong Marcos Jr. has named broadcaster Erwin Tulfo as the next Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD. Press Secretary-designate Trixie Cruz Angeles said Tulfo, brother of Senator-elect Raffy Tulfo, accepted the offer to join the incoming cabinet of the Marcos administration. The Commission on Elections clarified that party list nominees are not covered by the one-year ban before they may be appointed to any position. Tulfo was ACT CIS party list's fourth nominee and chair of the group, which advocates crime prevention. Meanwhile, aside from Tulfo, Cruz Angeles said Cristina Frasco, the spokesperson of Vice President-elect Sara Duterte, will serve as Secretary of the Department of Tourism. Former Manila Representative Naida Angping will lead the presidential management staff. Angping is also part of the transition team of the Marcos camp. Marcos also nominated Amena Pangandaman to lead the Department of Budget and Management, while Ivan Jan Enrile Uy will head the Department of Information and Communications. The Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board has approved the salary hike for minimum wage earners and domestic workers in Northern Mindanao. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said that the Northern Mindanao Wage Board issued wage order number RX21, granting a pay hike of 25 pesos upon its effectivity. He added that another 15 to 22 peso hike will also take effect on December 16. The board also granted a monthly wage increase of 500 pesos for domestic workers, bringing the new monthly minimum wage rate in the region to 4,500 pesos for cities and first-class municipalities and 3,500 for other municipalities. The previous wage order for workers in private establishments took effect on November 1, 2018, while the wage order for domestic workers was on January 1st, 2020. Oil companies implemented today a new round of price adjustments on fuel products. Caltex, Clean Fuel, Jetty, Petrogas, and PTT Philippines, Sea Oil, and Shell rolled back gasoline prices by 1 peso and 70 centavos per liter. On the other hand, diesel prices went up by 1 peso and 20 centavos per liter. Caltex, Sea Oil, and Shell also increased kerosene prices by 2 pesos and 45 centavos per liter, offsetting the rollback on kerosene last week. In the previous week, oil firms also slashed diesel prices while increasing gasoline prices. Last Friday, global oil price benchmarks closed higher as the outlook on supply remains tight amid strong demand for fuel. More stories from the newsroom. 4 ambassadors vow to boost ties with the Philippines under President-elect Bongbong Marcos. France assists mango growers in Guimaras in preparing their products for the European market. Details ahead. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
With an empty pocket, a Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program beneficiary is holding on to the government's promises that will be given assistance. On Tuesday, the Taganile family traveled back to Agusan del Sur, facing uncertainties and only armed with courage as they hold each other's arms. Marita Mawahe has the story.
At 23 years old, Leia May Taganile has taken on the full responsibility of looking after her mother's needs and supporting the studies of her younger sister. Now that they are going home to their province in Agusan del Sur through the BP2 program, she confessed her fears as to how they will be able to survive life in the province. For now, she said that she is just holding on and putting all her hopes to the government's promises.
Masasabi ko talaga na sana yung pinangako nila is matupad talaga. Kasi kaya naman kami nagdesisyon. Kasi dun, umasa kami dun sa sinasabi nila eh. Kasi di ko alam anong mangyayari sa amin pag hindi pala natupad yun. Wala namang trabaho tong mga kasama ko. Ako din wala. Wala pa kaming bahay. So sana kami pumulutin.
Leia May said that she has been doing well in Manila, earning enough to be able to send some money to her family in the province, even buying them tickets so they could come over to visit her in the city in 2019. Her mother, Leonila Taganile, 61 years old, and her sister, Lilibeth Taganile, 21 years old, would have been back to the province in 2020, but were trapped in Manila when the COVID-19 pandemic broke, limiting everyone's movement. Worst is, Leia May, who was then working as a sales lady in a big mall, has become one of the casualties of the pandemic when the company she was working with started cutting down the number of workers. With this, her family just lived by the food and financial assistance distributed by the government during the height of the pandemic. But even this is not enough, and they had to bear eating only once a day to be able to survive. Despite the uncertainties, she and her family are just happy that they all be able to finally go home, even if it took them 2 years of waiting after they applied to the BP2 program back in 2020.
Kasi ang inaano din namin nga yung pabahay kasi wala kaming bahay nga. Kasi kahit magstay ako dito sa Maynila, hindi rin kami makatay ng bahay sa kikitain namin. Di ba? Kasi sa rent pa lang pagkain pa, mga bills pa. Yun. Kaya nagdesisyon na talaga kami na umuwi. Tsaka tong Balik Probinsya program.
She said that they will temporarily live with her older sister who has a family of her own and do not have work as well. When they arrived to the province, she said that she also wants to avail of the livelihood assistance and training programs.
Yun po talaga yung inaasahan namin para talagang may kami mapagkitaan, mapaglibangan, ganun. Kasi wala talaga kaming source of income doon. Kahit ngayon nga namblema ako kasi
Nabagahin namin baka sobra walang pamba.
Tsaka yung pagdating namin, wala naman kaming pang-allowance, pangkain, ganun. Wala rin naman yung pupuntahan namin.
For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muahe.
4 ambassadors from Singapore, United Kingdom, France, and the European Union vowed to strengthen diplomatic and trade ties between the Philippines and their respective countries. The 4 envoys had separate courtesy calls with President-elect Bongbong Marcos at the BBM headquarters in Mandaluyong City on Monday. First to visit Marcos was Gerard Ho, Singapore ambassador to the Philippines, followed shortly by Ambassador Laurie Bowfields of the United Kingdom. European Union Ambassador Luc Perron also paid a visit, followed by Ambassador Michel Volcaz of France. Ho highlighted the close partnership of Singapore and the Philippines as founding members of ASEAN and the economic reforms between the two Asian countries. Ho also confirmed that Singapore President Halima Yacob invited Marcos to visit their country. Bowfields, meanwhile, said they talked about climate change, energy, peace process in Mindanao, and also human rights and media freedom. Meanwhile, 2 of Cebu's premier tourist destinations have laid out their master plans to develop their portfolios and revitalize tourism in their areas. The Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority and the Office of the Presidential Assistance for the Visayas are set to implement the tourism development plans of Bantayan and Camotes Islands. This is among the legacies of President Rodrigo Duterte before he ends his term on June 30. The master plans strictly mandate the proposed 25-meter plus 5-meter no-build zone for Bantayan and Camotes. Bantayan's master plan also proposes an esplanade, a linear park that connects several landmarks with a pedestrian-friendly pathway lined with palms and other trees. Similar plans are being proposed for Camotes, particularly in the western poblacion of the municipality of Poro. OPAV Secretary Michael Lloyd Dino said he pushed for the creation of master plans for Cebu's tourist hubs to avoid the same fate of Boracay Island when Duterte ordered its rehabilitation. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, recognized a delicacy-making venture of a family in Infanta, Pangasinan as the third-best DOLE-assisted livelihood project in the country. The native delicacy called patotoy is made of glutinous rice as the outer coating and yema or ube as its filling. Perfect Caballero Jr., the head of the family, said they started selling patotoy to their neighbors in 2017 and it soon became popular in the town. In 2020, Caballero's family acquired 20,000 pesos worth of equipment and materials, each from Dole and through the integrated Livelihood program. They now earn more or less 30,000 pesos a month, which is enough for their needs and a little savings. The livelihood of the Caballero family was among the 17 contingent projects under the individual category in the 2022 Dole Kabuhayan Awards held at New Coast Hotel in Malate, Manila on May 27. The French government is helping the province of Guimaras sell its sweet mango products in preparation for export to markets in the European Union. The Intellectual Property Office is in the final stages of polishing the guidelines for the issuance of the permit for the geographic indication of Guimaras mangoes. Guimaras Provincial Economic Development Officer Elena Quezon said, once they have that, it is easy for our products from the Philippines like Guimaras mangoes to enter the European market. France also offered technical assistance expected to focus on strengthening the mango producers' cooperative. Once the EU market is realized, they have to make sure that at least 50% of their current 27,000 fruit trees will bear fruit annually. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Malacanang says no one was left behind during the 6-year stint of the Duterte administration. More personalities are named for cabinet positions under the incoming Marcos administration. The salary hike for minimum wage earners and domestic workers in northern Mindanao has been granted. And 4 ambassadors vowed to strengthen diplomatic and trade ties between the Philippines and their respective countries. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.